So if you have an airbag and passenger seatbelt light on the dash and you're getting error codes 93B4 and 93A8, you may need to replace the clock spring. These error codes you cannot clear without fixing. They keep coming back. And since I needed to get my car inspected so that I can get it registered for the road, I replaced the clock spring. So today, I'm going to show you how to do that. So as I said before, you may be getting these errors and it says airbag for driver, second stage. Airbag for driver, first stage. And also your horn will not work. So what this tells me is there's some sort of fault in the circuitry of the clock spring, and while you could maybe take it apart and fix it, it's just easier to replace it. So first thing we need to do is, of course, disconnect our battery. Do not work on the car unless the battery is disconnected. You can get very badly hurt if the airbag should go off unintentionally. So then get a screwdriver and we're going to remove the airbag. There are these two little holes on either side of the steering wheel, and if you put your screwdriver in there, you'll be able to feel around and press in on these tabs in the steering wheel that will allow you to remove the airbag just like this. So then what we want to do is remove these two plugs. I tried to pull on them by hand, but you can just get a little screwdriver in there and pry up on them as well. And on this black plug, you have to pull up on either side of the plug in order to release it from its connector. Then we're going to undo the wiring that is here. There's one bolt, and the wiring will disconnect from the steering wheel or from the clock spring, and put that aside. Then here I tested to see if it was an issue with the clock spring. I tried to follow a guide that I had read on the Beamer forums, which I'll link down in the description. I couldn't get any readings on it, so I assumed that it was dead. But there is a way to actually test the clock spring, but you have to go read down below in the forum, linked in the description. So I went ahead and removed the steering wheel. What I suggest you do is keep the steering wheel as straight as possible, remove the bolt, and then what you're going to do is just mark with a little pen. I have these little paint pens exactly where the steering wheel was mounted. So put a dot or something on the shaft and a dot on the steering wheel so that you can mount it in the correct position again. Now, you'll have to remove the little plastic cover that's around the steering column. And the way you do that is by prying upward on the tabs that are on either side of where the steering covers connect. I'm just trying to show you how I did it here. Just very gently do this. And then the next step is you're able to take off the bottom one by pushing on these two little tabs on either side. Don't force this, but the tabs kind of move like this. They move in an outward position. So push with your screwdriver away from the steering column on either side, and this lower piece will pop right out. The top piece I just kept in there. I don't know how to remove it, but this gives us access to the 4 bolts on the clock spring to remove the clock spring and the controls from the steering column. So once you get those removed, you'll have to now remove the cabling. There are 3 little connectors on the back. Just take a look at them. They're self-explanatory. There is one that you have to kind of pry outward on the little clip and then downward, and it pops out. And I don't think I showed this very well, but there's a little gray piece right there, and you need to pry outward on the gray piece. And once that is, you can pull the gray piece, then rotates to the left, and you can pull the connector out. It's kind of like locking it in place. So once you have everything out, we're going to disconnect the clock spring from the controls, and you do that by prying up on the 4 tabs as I show right here, but leave the one lower right one as the last one because it's a little bit harder. Everything wants to stick together. So once you have everything out, it's same thing as reverse to put it back together. I think there's one thing to note, that on the controls, make sure that the clock spring is orientated in the correct direction with the arrow pointing to the left of the device. If it's not orientated correctly, then it won't work properly. But if you haven't removed that red cap from the clock spring, then it should be locked in the correct orientation. So I suggest that you leave that on there until you have it all together. And it just clips together just like that. So then it's the same as reverse, just plug it all back together, the connectors at the back. And then I remove the red tab that unlocks the clock spring from moving. Put the 4 bolts back in. And please be careful not to break them. I broke one of them here because I over torqued it. Put the lower bottom trim piece back in. This was a little bit challenging, but if you pull up and out the top plastic piece, you can then get the bottom piece in there enough to be able to then snap it together. So that's what I did. We then reattach the steering wheel in the correct orientation. Reattach our little steering wheel harness here. Very carefully reattach our airbag plugs. Then we're going to reattach the battery. And what I did was I stayed out of the car. I put the key in the car and I put it in accessory mode, but I didn't get in the car yet until for a few minutes just in case the airbag went off or something like that. Just be very careful about this. I then opened up my Carly app and I cleared the codes. And as you can see, the code went away on the dash finally, which shows we were successful and it was this issue. Of course, the seatbelt light was on until I plugged in my seatbelt. So just want to say thank you guys so much for watching. That was a quick clock spring removal repair. Again, the airbag light was on and it wouldn't go away and my horn wouldn't work. So I thought it was first like an electrical connection or something, but it wasn't. It was just the clock spring that needed to be replaced. Again, massive shout out to the forum member that had figured this out. I'll link his forum post down below. Hope this was helpful for you and you can save some money repairing this yourself. I mean, this part, I think it's from BMW, $100 or a $30 one you can get on eBay. This is part number 6967325-01. So now I can go and finally take this to the TÜV because I know you guys have been waiting a long time and for many videos to get that airbag light fixed. And it's also safe for when we go on the racetrack or on the Nürburgring. So thank you guys so much for watching and we'll see you in the next video. Thank you so much for watching. Feel free to check out my other video tutorials on my channel. If any of these videos were helpful to you, consider dropping a like and sharing these videos on social media to help other BMW owners save money fixing their cars. See you guys in the next video.